Picture this. The doors of the cathedral swing open. The organist begins the first triumphant chords of Canon in D. 500 guests stand in a wave of silk and perfume, turning their heads to see the vision in white. My sister, Chloe, stands there, clutching a bouquet of rare orchids that cost more than my first car. She looks like a princess. She's glowing. She thinks this is the happiest day of her life. She thinks she won. But as she takes that first step down the aisle, her eyes meet mine. I'm not crying because I'm happy for her. I'm smiling because in exactly 60 seconds, the two men in dark suits standing behind the floral archway are going to walk forward and end her fairy tale in front of everyone she has ever tried to impress. She stole my ability to walk without pain just so she could have a party, and today I'm making sure she pays the bill. To understand why I'm standing here, watching my own sister get fitted for a pair of silver bracelets instead of a wedding ring, you have to understand our family. I've always been the reliable one. I'm the one who worked through college, the one who saved every penny, and the one who survived a horrific car accident 3 years ago that left my left hip and lower spine in a state of constant, grinding agony. For 3 years, I lived like a hermit. I worked 2 remote jobs, lived on ramen, and skipped every vacation to save up for a specialized corrective surgery that wasn't covered by my insurance. $40,000. That was the magic number. That was the price of a life without a cane. That was the price of being able to run again. Then there's Chloe. Chloe is the golden child. She's beautiful, she's charismatic, and she has never held a job for longer than 4 months. My parents, bless their hearts, have spent their entire lives enabling her. If Chloe overdraws her account, Dad covers it. If Chloe crashes her car, Mom buys her a new one. She's just a free spirit, they'd say. You're so strong, but Chloe needs us. I accepted that. I stayed in my lane. I hit my $40,000 goal in December. I had the surgery scheduled for June. I kept the money in a high-yield savings account that our father had helped me set up years ago when I was a minor. Because he was a co-signer from a decade ago, his name was still on the account, something I never thought twice about because I trusted my family. The trouble started when Chloe got engaged to Marcus. Marcus comes from an old money family, the kind that expects a certain caliber of wedding. Chloe, who had $0 to her name, decided she needed a $60,000 Cinderella wedding at the most expensive estate in the state. My parents told her they could only afford $10,000. Chloe had a meltdown. She screamed, she cried, she went on a week-long disappearing act to worry everyone. And then suddenly, she came back, beaming. She told everyone she'd found a way to make it work. She said she'd taken out a private loan and worked out a payment plan. My parents were so relieved they didn't ask questions. I was happy for her. I really was, until I went to log into my medical portal to send the final deposit to the surgical center. I typed in my password, clicked on the payment button, and saw the red text. Transaction declined. Insufficient funds. My heart didn't just drop, it stopped. I opened my banking app. Balance, $14.32. I spiraled. I thought I'd been hacked. I called the bank, hyperventilating, crying that my life savings were gone. The teller was quiet for a long time. Then she said, the funds were transferred via a series of cashier's checks, signed by the secondary account holder, David, and a Chloe Miller. My father had given her the keys to my life. When I confronted him, he couldn't even look me in the eye. He told me Chloe was suicidal over the wedding costs and that she promised to pay me back when she married Marcus and got access to his trust fund. He said, you're so hardworking, you can save it again, but this is Chloe's only chance to be a bride. My own father had helped her steal my health so she could have a designer dress and a 4-tier cake. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I went cold. A type of cold I've never felt before. I realized then that if I sued them now, the money was already spent. The vendors were paid. The deposits were non-refundable. If I caused a scene then, the family would just huddle up and protect her. I needed the maximum impact. I needed her to be at the highest point of her life, so the fall would be terminal. For 3 months, I played the part. I was the supportive sister. I went to the dress fittings, watching her twirl in a $7,000 gown bought with my spinal surgery money. Every time I felt a flare-up of pain in my hip, I used it to fuel my resolution. I documented everything. I got the bank records. I recorded a conversation where Chloe laughed and told me to stop being so dramatic because she'd pay me back eventually. I went to a lawyer, and more importantly, I went to the police. Embezzlement and grand theft are serious, especially when the victim is a disabled individual and the amount is over $20,000. The police wanted to move immediately, but I asked them for a favor. I told them I wanted to ensure she didn't flee. I told them she was a flight risk. I told them the best time to find her and the person who helped her would be at the wedding. Wedding day arrived. The estate was breathtaking, white roses everywhere. The air smelled like champagne and betrayal. My parents were glowing, acting like the perfect hosts. Chloe was in the bridal suite, acting like a queen. I walked in, leaning on my cane, and she didn't even ask how I was feeling. She just asked if I could move further back in the photos so my cane wouldn't ruin the aesthetic. I smiled and said, "Don't worry, Chloe. Today is going to be unforgettable." I had already spoken to the groom, Marcus, an hour before the ceremony. I showed him the bank statements. I showed him the police report. I told him that the woman he was about to marry was a felon who stole from her crippled brother. Marcus isn't a bad guy. He's just oblivious. He looked like he was going to vomit. I told him, "You can walk away now, or you can watch the show. But if you marry her, you're marrying her dead and her crimes." He chose to wait. He wanted to see it for himself. The ceremony started. The music swelled. Chloe began her walk. She looked radiant. She reached the midway point of the aisle, right where the flowers were thickest. That's when I signaled the 2 plainclothes officers I had invited as my plus ones. They stepped out from the wings. The music faltered. The organist stopped playing. A heavy, suffocating silence fell over the cathedral. Chloe stopped, confused. A fake smile still blasted on her face. "What's going on?" she whispered. The lead officer didn't whisper. "Chloe Miller, you're under arrest for grand larceny and embezzlement." The gasp that went through the room was like a physical wave. My mother shrieked. My father turned white as a sheet. The officer reached out, and before 500 people, he pulled Chloe's hands away from her bouquet and clicked the handcuffs shut over her lace gloves. "Marcus," Chloe screamed, looking at her fiancé. "Marcus, do something." Marcus just stood at the altar, shaking his head. "The wedding is off, Chloe. I can't marry a thief." He turned and walked out the back door, leaving her standing there in chains. But I wasn't done. I walked up to her, the sound of my cane clicking on the marble floor the only noise in the room. She was sobbing now, her makeup running, looking like a broken doll. I leaned in close to her ear so only she could hear me. I said, "You told me I could just save the money again. Well, you're young. You can just save your reputation again. But it's going to be hard to do that from a cell. By the way, I'm suing Mom and Dad as accomplices. Enjoy."